I don't know, you're trying to live up to expectations, right? And I definitely felt that, like, in lots of different ways, or felt in a lot of different ways that I was failing, that you weren't living up to these expectations. It's like a pressure. It's kind of like this self-imposed pressure that you put on yourself. Right. And I don't know, I totally related to that in Barb. Like, there's definitely, like, it's sometimes hard to remember that you got to, like, be easy on yourself, be gentle on yourself.
Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 475. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com. And we're excited to have back with us the internationally acclaimed and highly talented creators behind Blueberry and Pancakes and Barb the Last Berzerker, Dan Abdo and Jason Patterson.
Hey, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah. This is exciting. So you guys, I remember it was a couple years ago, Dan, you came out where you were on the show, and Jason, I think Jason, you were sick or something. I don't know, I'm sure, but you weren't. But we soldiered on without you. And we're talking about, Barb the Last Berzerker. It was the fifth installment. I mean, the third installment. And now because I subscribed to your to your newsletters, and I saw Barb the Berzerker 4 coming out, and I'm like, well, we got to talk about this. And so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about where we're leaving Barb off from last, because you had a pretty good arc that covered the first 3 stories.
Yeah, so the first 3 books, like, we kind of refer to it as like the Witch Head saga. It's like essentially like those 3 books are a continuous story that kind of chronicles Barb's journey as she's like kind of finding herself, kind of figuring out how the world works, and confronting Witchhead, who's this like evil sorcerer. And yeah, there is kind of a nice wrap up in Barb in the Battle for Bailiwick, but we do end it on this like cliffhanger, which every kid, at least like every kid who's read it and I've talked to, is like, is this the leech? Is this the next thing? Where it's like you see this kind of like underwater creature like menacing Barb as her and Porkchop are walking off into the sunset. And so then that's kind of where we pick off on Barb versus the Leech Queen.
Right. And so Jason, I'm kind of curious, because you guys have like the log line, I guess the best way to describe it is that the war might be over, but the real story begins now. Can you unpack what that means for Barb's journey?
Well, I think I think the 4th story, like Dan said, we kind of had this trilogy in our heads, and then what happens after the trilogy, and Barb has kind of completed her mission. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit like you've won the tournament or something, and then what do you do? And Barb is kind of having this, she's like Dan said, she's trying to figure out who she is now that she's not the champion of Bailiwick. She kind of has to find a new place for herself. So I feel like this story is really fun in that the whole world of Bailiwick is kind of going through the same thing. It's like the war between humans and monsters is finally over. And it's like, what does that look like? Right? Like, there's this town, Sculladoon, which is actually in the first book, and that's where a lot of the story takes place. And the humans are kind of coming back in to live there with the monsters, and there's all this like tension and stuff. I mean, it's totally fun and silly, but it is kind of like learning to live with your enemy. And also for Barb, who's a warrior who's trying to kind of defeat this guy named Witchhead, who's now defeated, it's like, what does she do now? Like, who is she? Is she going to be this champion, or does she want to kind of be a kid again? Or she's kind of like wrestling with her identity. So that was something that was really, really fun to explore. And the other thing about the 4th book, which was a challenge for us, was we were going to do one episode, kind of one story in the book. So we were talking about Tintin earlier, and it's like we were talking about the Tintin stories that like have multiple books, like some of them have 2, but we had 3 in the last Barb one, and now we're like, okay, how do we tell it all in one story? And this was like really, it was actually much harder than telling a trilogy. So writing wise, it was definitely a challenge.
Right. What was interesting, because you guys, what we watched as we read, Barb, her emotional growth happened through the 3 books. So also, I'm kind of curious, as a question for both of you. what was your emotional growth through watching Barb grow?
That's a great question.
That is a good question. I mean, I feel maybe I'll start it off and then Jason, then Jason will come up with something grateful. I don't know. It's like the first Barb book was kind of our first real, like we've been wanting to tell big epic stories for years, you know, and like we worked in commercial development for a long time where we were kind of limited to telling these like little 3-minute stories. And so Barb was kind of our first opportunity to really tell something that was like, you know, big and nuanced and could go to all these side quests and come back and have all these different characters. So I feel like, I don't know, we have kind of been growing as storytellers as the Barb books have been progressing, you know? And it's like now with the fourth Barb book, I don't know, I was just reading through it the other day and I was like, oh, this is actually, I think it's some of our best artwork. And I think it is some of our most fun storytelling where it's like cinematic and silly and fun, but there is like this underlying thing where it's like, it's about people getting along. It's like about people doing the work of living with each other who don't always see eye to eye, you know? I don't know. There's just like, there's a lot of stuff about it that I'm really into.
I remember Dan and I both went to RISD, and a professor, who I'm totally going to forget their name, was like, as a student, you're always saying, can I do this? Right? Because you don't know if you can do it. And like Dan said, Barb was kind of the first story that we actually got to tell. And up until that point, we're like, we think we can do it, but we're not sure. And so we were able to do it. We really felt like, oh, this is really fun. It's really hard, but we can totally do this. This is really exciting. And so the next question you ask is, well, what do you want to say, right? Once you know you can say it, once you kind of understand the medium and realize this is an amazing medium and you can tell all these awesome stories. So what is it that you want to say? And I think that's where the growth came from, because it's kind of like at least the first book, Dan and I were just running as fast as we could. We thought someone was going to take it away from us. So we're just drawing as fast as we could. We'd stay up late. We're always exhausted. And now I think Barb 4, we're like, oh, this is a world we know so much better because we've lived in it for 3 books. And we can kind of have a story. We don't feel as, I don't know, we don't feel as much pressure to entertain the audience as much. It's kind of like we're maybe a tiny bit more relaxed, and Dan and I, we tend to not be relaxed at all. So it feels good to be a little more relaxed.
No, I think that's totally accurate. It's like, it's almost like a lot of the Barb rhythms have been figured out, right? It's like we kind of like know like what a Barb story feels like. And so that, like, you just don't have to figure that out anymore. It's like the world has kind of been built in a lot of ways. Now we just get to play in it.
And so you mentioned too before that you guys you give villains like hidden scars and motivations and, you know, even humor, because that kind of fits within the as you say, like the rhythm of the book. Can you walk us through the process of how the two of you make like layered antagonists?
Do you want me to start on this one, Dan?
I'll let you start this one.
Or do you want to start?
Oh, well, okay, I'll start. I mean, it's definitely something that we're constantly thinking of. It's like, at least like I'm always like, the villain who wants to take over the world for the sake of taking over the world is just it's just super boring. You know what I mean? There's just like, we've seen it a million times, and there, like, it feels like there always has to be some kind of interesting motivation. It's like that whole thing where like no one sees themselves as the bad guy, right? No one sees themselves as evil or as the villain. So it's like I'm always trying to do is trying to figure out the justification of like, oh, how is the villain bending the reality in their head to make this seem like I'm in the right, you know? And so, and it's like, I think even with a kid's story, it's like, you know, you want to have that, like, you don't want to have just that like plain good guy, bad guy thing. It's like, you want to have these nuances and like kind of shady areas where it's like, things aren't, I mean, I feel like that's what's so interesting about Barb in the first place, is that she was this good guy who was sworn to protect people from monsters. But then she's like, wait a second, like, maybe not all monsters are bad. Like, maybe there's like a deeper story here. And it feels like that's in some ways like the heart of Barb, you know, like all the stories kind of come back to that theme of like, if you look a little bit deeper, there's like something else is going on that's worth investigating, that's worth exploring. You know, that's where you find your friends.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, that's a great way to put it. And Dan, it's funny when we're writing stuff, I'm always like, oh, the villain, he wants to take over the world. He's gonna, and I start thinking about how he's gonna do it. And Dan's like, well, why is he gonna do it like that? And I think always kind of challenging your characters and digging deeper into them is always a really good exercise that goes further than designing. You know, it's like giving them pointy hats and awesome swords and stuff. Like that's all the gravy that kind of sits on top of like their character motivation. And when we were making the fourth one, Barb versus the Leech Queen, we actually in this particular story, we had thumbed out the entire story and delivered it, and we got this note being like, "Well, what is the villain's motivation?" And Dan and I were like, "Well, we didn't really have a good answer for it," and we realized we hadn't done the work of figuring out like what is the Leech's motivation. And so we dug into it, and we realized we basically had to rewrite half the story. Which was super annoying, but it made it so much better and so much more satisfying. And totally like Dan was saying, it's like the Leech sees herself as trying to save something. She's trying to protect something. In a lot of ways, a lot like Barb. It's just we're not always seeing it from her point of view, and also her methods are a little bit different than Barb's. But she's a desperate character who's trying to do something in her mind that is really good. And I think the best villains see themselves that way. Like one of the all-time greats has to be Darth Vader, and I think it's an Empire one. He's like, he wants to bring order to the galaxy, and it's just this tiny little line, but it makes you understand that he is not just trying to like kill as many Ewoks as he can. He's like, he has a bigger picture, and it made him so much deeper and more interesting. And so yeah, it's hard. It's really hard, but it's so important.
So with the character arcs, as the two of you were writing the stories, did it kind of go off the rails? Did the characters go in a direction that you guys weren't expecting, and you're like, well, this is where we're going, I guess?
I don't even really remember that first version now. I remember there were like two, weren't there like, so like the Leech comes from Leecham. And I feel like there were two kind of were there two like Leech factions in Leecham that were warring?
Side note, Dan got married in Peacham, Vermont. So Leecham and Peacham are kind of like, we try to hide some Vermont Easter eggs in there every now and then.
It's a little Peacham shout out.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you remember? I don't remember exactly how the first version went, but we definitely go off the rails sometimes. Like that's not out of the ordinary for us, where it's like we get really into a vein of a character or like an adventure, and we'll just like follow it. And I mean, usually like one of us will be able to like pull us back, or be like, wait a second, maybe this isn't right. But that we also work with an amazing editor. Our Kendra Levine is like this totally brilliant editor that we work with at Simon & Schuster, and like she has helped us a lot in terms of like pulling us back and bring like one thing that we love is lore. Like we love like talking about like what happened 100 years ago for some reason. I feel like it's just naturally, it's like how we like to tell stories. It's like, well, you got to know about like all this history, and then this story is going to really make an impact, But like Kendra's awesome at just being like, let's just tell this story for now. Like, let's just focus here and get this story done. So yeah, like we're definitely can go off the rails.
Well, hey there! If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us.
In book 4, there's a dad thread. Without giving too much away, how did the idea of Barb's dad evolve, and what emotional beats were important for you two to hit?
I was funny. So one of the things we do as creators and writers of comic books is we go to schools and we get to stand up in front of a bunch of kids and talk about comics, which is an amazing, scary, awesome experience. And I feel like one of the questions we kept getting asked was, who is Barb's dad? Like, a lot of people think it's Thunder. Like, a lot of hands would go up and be like, is Thunder Barb's dad? Where's Barb's dad? Like, everyone wanted to know that. And honestly, Dan and I think we'd written the first 3 books and we hadn't really thought about it that much. So I think we wanted to give that some thought. It felt like something the audience wanted to know. And it's a natural thing to explore for Barb, right? She's growing up with her mom. You don't hear about her dad. Like, what's the deal with her dad? So we thought this would be a good way to kind of like sneak in a little bit of dad lore.
Yeah, and it is just like a real quick little scene, you know, that kind of hints at Barb's dad, and it's kind of like been a springboard for us, just like starting to conceptualize like, oh, like what would a real Barb story with her dad be? And like we're kind of like playing with that stuff right now, like figuring out like a fun adventure with that Barb where she like gets reacquainted with her dad.
And so for kids reading this, what kind of message are you hoping they'll take away from, you know, a complicated relationship with Barb's father then?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's like Barb's mom has been like spotlighted in all the books, really. Like, she's been like a really integral character, and she kind of saves the day in the Battle for Bailiwick. Like, she kind of sacrifices herself to save the whole world. She does make like an appearance in the new book, Barb versus the Leech Queen, but it's really just kind of like is it a vision? Is it a dream? You don't really know. But like, she's still around, you know. It's like she's still present. And like Barb's dad, like he's kind of just been like totally absent. He kind of hasn't been there. So we just essentially like have like a little Easter egg where you kind of like where you get a quick glimpse of like who's Barb's dad could have been. But I mean, in terms of like what we want kids to take,
and I think,
oh, sorry.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, like, Barb's dad doesn't necessarily know that he's dad too. Like, that was kind of an important choice for us. We didn't want him to be like I don't feel like being a parent anymore kind of dad. He's like, he doesn't really know. Like, something happened to him before Barb came on the scene. So that was kind of an important piece of the puzzle too, in terms of figuring out his character.
It's like I feel like Barb's constantly figuring stuff out, like essentially on her own. You know what I mean? She is a little bit of this like independent kid who's like out there, like having to like trial and error her way through the world. And then like she has these little like moments with mentor characters, like with Thunder or her dad, or, you know, and like they give her, they kind of like push her along a little bit or guide her a little bit. They're like coaches more than they are like, you know, these like saviors. And I don't know, there's that element of Barb that I really like, you know, and I do hope kids like can see that in themselves a little bit, that like you have the power to figure it out. It's like you have the strength in you to like go out there and like solve these problems.
What part of your personalities do you feel is in Barb?
I feel like there's a lot of me in Pork Chop. It's like Pork Chop's all about like hanging out and eating breakfast foods and like kind of taking the easy path. Like there's definitely a lot of me in that. But
yeah,
you know,
I was trying on a pair of pants today, and I was like, man, I gotta this feeling a lot like Pork Chop here. Maybe I shouldn't wear pants. I'll just wear a sling with food in it. That's the ideal, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, there's this great scene in the new Barb book where she's searching for Pork Chop. Like Barb and Pork Chop just got in this big fight, and she's searching for him in like the sewers of Skulladoon. She can't find him, and she kind of like gives up and falls asleep. And then she finds her mom, and like she's kind of talking to her mom about like all this stuff that's bothering her, and she's essentially just like, I don't know who I'm supposed to be, you know? Like I feel like sometimes there's like as kids, like we have these feelings of like, I don't know, you're trying to live up to expectations, right? And I definitely felt that, like, in lots of different ways, or felt in a lot of different ways that I was failing, that you weren't living up to these expectations. It's like a pressure. It's kind of like this self-imposed pressure that you put on yourself. Right. And I don't know, I totally related to that in Barb. Like, there's definitely, like, it's sometimes hard to remember that you got to, like, be easy on yourself, be gentle on yourself. And, like, Barb's mom kind of gives her that little lesson.
Right. What about you, Jason?
No, that's a great answer. I mean, I guess I would say that I always see, like, our friendship in our stories a lot, and it shows up in funny ways. But I feel like Dan and I are both neurotic. We both put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and I feel like at certain points, one of us is ready to give up and just be like, "I'm out. This is too crazy. I can't do this anymore." And the other one is always there to kind of be like, "Hey, you know what? Let's go get lunch, or let's talk about Star Trek versus Star Wars for a little while." And it's like, it makes you realize that friendship is this great antidote to the pressures and the anxieties and, like, all the crazy stuff that happens in life. That friendship is kind of like this little oasis, this little island where you can kind of retreat to and be restored by, and then find new strength in. And I feel like it's funny, when we're writing Barb, we're writing the first outline for the first book. We had kind of delayed where Barb meets Porkchop, and the story just was not working. It was, like, flat, and Barb is kind of a little serious, and she's really focused, and she really needs Porkchop. So we brought him into the story sooner, and it kind of created this energy. And I feel like, I don't know, Dan and I have that a little bit too, where it's like one of us sometimes will be like, we've got a deadline, we really got to make this deadline. And the other one will be like, oh my God, I heard this awesome podcast. Let's talk about this podcast for an hour, even though it's like we're counting the minutes to this deadline. And I think that's a really important aspect of anything creative, for sure. But it's like, just to survive in this world, you have to be able to, like, take a step back every now and then and be like, let's talk about sausages.
But Jason, we also have to get work done. We got to get work done too.
So you said that. So once this is out, people can be able to ask their local library to carry the book, or they can get it at local bookstores as well.
Yeah. Anywhere that you get. I mean, so Simon & Schuster's publishing it, so pretty much anywhere that you buy books, you'll be able to find it or order it. And yeah, you can pre-order it now. And we actually just did this little thing, which might be kind of fun for some of your listeners, where we made this little, I actually have some here, these little, like, Halloween stories. It's like a little Barb ghost story. And so my plan was, like, I was just going to drive around Vermont bookstores and put them in bookstores, but I posted a little something on the socials about it, and everyone was like, what bookstore? Like, where do we get it? Like, how do I get one? So I just put them a free download on our website too. So if you go to our store, there's you just have to type in Zerkout as the code, and then you can just get a free download.
Oh, that's cool. Any final thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I mean, I just hope that, kids enjoy it and, like, are excited to see Barb again and, like, go on another adventure with her. It's like, that's how I felt about comics when I was a kid. Like, it felt like, oh, like, you're, like, meeting your friends again, and you kind of, like, get to, like, spend some time with them. And I just hope that that's what kids experience when they read these Barb books, that it's, like, something kind of, like, comforting and cozy.
Yeah, and I love that. I think, your friends can exist in books, and a lot of my friends existed in books, for sure. I guess one thing is, I feel bad that this took so long to come out. I remember I was at a school visit, I think a year ago, and someone was like, when's the next Barb book come out? Because Dan and I were really on top of getting these out, like, every year, and it was kind of killing us a little bit. But now it's been, like, I think 2 years. And I remember this kid asked, when's the next Barb book come out? And I was like, not until next November. And he's like, so never. And I know as a kid, this feels like never. But finally, never is going to happen on November 4th. So that little kid who was in the audience who asked, never has finally happened. And I really, Dan and I think you're going to love this. This one's awesome. I think you're totally going to dig it. It's really exciting. And there's a lot of awesome, funny stuff in it. And there's even Barb cookies in it somewhere. So that's, Halloween treats. There's, like, Barb cookies, Barb bars.
And it sounds like we're not done with Barb yet either. Then, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're always cooking on new Barb stories. Like, we definitely have been like throwing around ideas for like what the next book is. So yeah, but it's like, I mean, it is kind of like we really want people to go out and like and get this book and pre-order this book so that we can make the next Barb book. You know what I mean? It's always kind of dependent on like the previous one. So yeah, the more that people are like can get out there and pick one up, the more chances that we have that we get to make another one.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, thank you. So Dan and Jason, when the next Barb book comes out, you're gonna have to come back on and we'll have to talk about that one then too.
Anytime. We'd love to. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us, Barney. It's so good to see you again, man.
Yeah.